Hi everyone, welcome to the fourth video in this series, Filtering Data. So in this video, we'll look at how we can filter data using where statements in SQL. So in the last video, we looked at how we can use the select statement to retrieve data from a table. So for example, if we want to look at a table in a database, then the corresponding SQL statement is select star from table name. So this just retrieves all the data that's in the table. If we want to filter out certain columns, if we want to look only at a few specific columns, then the corresponding SQL statement is select, and then you list out the names of the columns from table name. So this is what we covered in the last video. And now we look at how we can filter not just our columns, but also our rows. So if you want to filter the data, the corresponding syntax is this. You say select, then if you want to look at specific columns, you list out the columns that you want to see, then from, and then the name of the table from where you want to get the data, and then the where keyword, and then some condition. So this condition is usually a Boolean condition. It's a statement that has either a true or false output. So we look into this where condition in a little bit more detail, and then we look at some examples. So let's look at comparison operators first. So these are very basic, and this is probably what you've already seen before. So the equal symbol just means that one value is equal to the other. Not equals means one value is not equal to the other. Then there's the greater than or equal to, less than, and less than or equal to. So these are very basic operators and very easy to use. The next kind of operator that we look at are logical operators. So there's four main kinds that we will cover today. There's and, or, between, and not. So right now these might seem a little bit abstract, but when we do some examples, it will make a lot more sense. So when you're looking at two or more conditions, you want to filter the data based on two or more conditions, you usually use logical operators. So and means that both conditions have to be satisfied. Or means that either condition can be satisfied. Between means that, between is used to find values that are within a certain range. And not means that that specific condition is not satisfied. So there's two kinds of operators that we look at, the comparison operators and the logical operators. So I'll close the PPT and I'll open MySQL Workbench so that we can do some examples. Okay, so I've been able to connect to the database. The database the tables that we're going to be using, they're here. So we're going to be using these three tables: professors, students, and subjects. And just to give a quick recap of the select statement, so you say select. If I want to look at the professors table, I'll say select star, and then from, and then professors. So whatever is a SQL keyword, as you type it, MySQL Workbench will highlight, or it'll change the text color to blue, so you know that that is a SQL keyword. So I can run that. Oops, sorry. So it's important to remember that before you actually run any SQL, you need to say use and then the name of the database that you're using. So we are going to look at the university database, in which there are these three tables. So I'm just going to say use university and then a semicolon. So it's just telling MySQL Workbench that navigate to this database and then extract whatever information. So use university, and then I can say select star from professors. And if I run that, we get a list of all the professors that we have in the database. Similarly, I can just replace professors with students, and we'll get a list of all the students in the database. Or I can say subjects instead, and we'll get a list of all the subjects that we have. Okay, so now SQL, we've looked at the select statement. Let's add the where statement. So if you recall, the syntax for the where statement is select star from the name of the table, and then you add a where, and then whatever condition you want to include. So for example, actually before I do that, I will just say select star from students so that we have our students table open, right? So suppose we want to see all the students who are studying biochemistry. So biochemistry is one of the subjects that that is offered at this university, and you want a list of all the students who are studying biochemistry. So what I will do is I will say select star from students, and then where, and then the subject column, we want the subject to be equal to single quotes and then biochemistry, right? So this should give us a list of all the students who are studying biochemistry. So if I hit run, so we can see that from the action output tab over here, you can see that 9 rows have been returned. So there are 9 students in the university who are studying biochemistry, and you'll see that the subject is all biochemistry. So we filtered out only those students who are studying biochemistry. Okay, so we've seen an example of an equals to condition. So if I go back to our comparison operators, the next one that we looked at was not equal to. So let's look at an example of a not equal to condition. So suppose I want to see a list of all the students who are studying anything other than statistics, right? So we want to see all students who have their subject not equal to statistics. So I can just say not equal to. So the exclamation mark followed by the equals to, that is the not comparison operator. So then I will say statistics. So this should give us a list of all the students who are not studying statistics, right? And you can see that I spelled it wrong. That is the reason why. Okay, so statistics, that's the correct spelling. So if I hit run, okay, so you can see that 187 rows returned. So there are 187 students who are studying anything other than statistics. And if I scroll down the list of subjects here, you'll see that statistics doesn't appear here at all. So we filtered out all the students who are studying anything other than statistics. Or in other words, we have excluded all the students who are studying statistics. Okay, so we've done equals, we've done not equals. The next one we'll look at is greater than and greater than or equal to. So let's forget about, I'll just delete the entire where condition, and we'll do select star from students. So this is again just a list of all the students that we have. So now suppose I want to see all the students that have a GPA higher than 9. So these are our high performing students. So I want to see all the students who have a GPA higher than 9. So I can say where, and then GPA, the GPA column is greater than 9. And then hit, and then press run. So we have 27 students who have a GPA higher than 9. So if you scroll, you'll see that there's no student. We've excluded all the students who have a GPA lower than 9, right? And if I add an equals to, we can see how the results changes. So this should include all the students who have a GPA equal to 9 or greater than 9. So greater than or equal to 9. So if I hit run, okay, so it looks like the number of students doesn't change. That's probably because there is no student that has a GPA of exactly 9. But if there was, they would now be included in this table, in this output. Okay, so greater than or equals to, pretty straightforward. Next, we'll look at less than or equals to, just the opposite. So suppose I want to get a list of all the students who are not performing so well. So let's say they have a GPA of students that have a GPA less than or equal to 4. So I will just do GPA less than 4. And if I hit run, so it looks like there's 51 students who have a GPA lower than 4. and I can add an equals to. So this should include all the students who have a GPA of 4 or lower. So if I hit run, again the number of rows doesn't change because no student has a GPA that is exactly 4. But if there were students that had a GPA of exactly 4, they would appear in this table, in this output table. So greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, all of these are very simple comparison operators, simple enough to use, and you just have to remember that this condition that we have that comes after the where keyword, it is a statement that has a Boolean output. So a true or false output. So essentially what is happening is SQL will take the entire table and then it will check each row and see if this condition is true or false. And then depending on what we've asked for, it will display that row or not display that row. So that's sort of what is going on behind the programming, shall we say. Okay, so we use GPA in this condition. So GPA is clearly a decimal number. So we've used these comparison operators with numbers. So what is great about SQL is that you can also use it on dates. So I'll delete this condition. And now what I'm going to do is, I'll just delete the whole thing. So suppose I want to see all of the professors that were hired before a certain date. So I'll just say select star from professors. So we're looking at the professors table and I hit run. So there's this column hired date, which shows when the professor was hired. And I want to see all the professors that were hired before a certain date. So so I will say where hired date. So the hired date column is less than or equal to 2011 12/31. Okay, so that is the 31st of December 2011. So I want to see all the professors who were hired before, who were hired approximately 10 years ago. Maybe you want to, wish them happy 10 years or congratulate them or whatever. For whatever reason, if you want to see all the professors who were hired before this date, this is how you can do it. You just say hired date less than or equal to, and then in single quotes, you have to make sure that it is in the same format. So you can see that I have year, then month, and then day. And that is the same format in which the higher date is stored, year, month, and then the day. So you just have to make sure that it is in the same format. But otherwise, you can just use simple comparison operators to put restrictions on the date. So we are going to look at professors who were hired before the 31st of December 2011. So if I hit run, so you can see that there are 21 professors that we've hired more than 10 years ago. And here they are. These are all of them. Okay, so this is an example of where we use date. We can use the date to, we can use comparison operators while filtering out certain dates. Okay, so now that we looked at we've looked at all comparison operators pretty much. So now comes the logical operators, and we're going to look at examples that include logical operators. So let me give a very simple example first, right? So suppose you want to look at, and delete all of this, and we'll build the whole query again. So I want to look at all the students. So select star from students, where I want to see all the students who have a GPA higher than 8 who are studying statistics. So here now we have two conditions coming in. So first, the student has to be studying statistics. Second, the student has to have a GPA greater than or equal to 8. So we want to see only those students. So two conditions are coming in. The first one is that we want the subject to be equal to statistics, and we want the GPA to be greater than or equal to 8. So two conditions, subject equal to statistics and GPA equal to 8. And we want both, GPA greater than or equal to 8. And we want both of those conditions to be satisfied. So if I hit run, there's only 5 students who are studying statistics and have a GPA greater than or equal to 8. And just to show you, I can remove this second condition and just say where subject is statistics and run that. And you can see that there's 13 rows that I've returned. So we are adding a second filter that ensures that our GPA is greater than or equal to 8. So the AND, once again, just makes sure that both conditions are satisfied. So these are the students who are studying statistics and have a GPA greater than or equal to 8. Okay, so I'll delete this query, and now we look at the OR condition, sorry, the OR operator. So that is when either condition can be satisfied. So I will say select star from subjects so that we can see a list of all the subjects that we have. And we have 19 different subjects, and here you can see we have macroeconomics and microeconomics. That sorry, there's 2 of them apparently. Okay, so microeconomics appears twice. One is offered in semester 1 and one is offered in semester 2. Okay, either way, we have macroeconomics and microeconomics. And suppose you want to see all the students who are studying just economics in general. And we don't care about whether they are studying macro or micro. We just want to see students who are studying economics in general. What I can do then is I can say select star from students where their subject is either macro economics or their subject is microeconomics. Okay, I've spelled that right. So we want to see all the students who are studying either macroeconomics or microeconomics. So subject equals macroeconomics or subject equals microeconomics. And if I hit run, okay, I think there might be a problem with the spacing. Okay. So there is an extra space at the beginning of the subject name. So if I just add that extra space, then it's fine. So yeah, so this is the list of all the students who are studying economics in general, whether it's macroeconomics or microeconomics. So there are 25 students studying economics in general at this university. So this is an example of the OR logical operator. So either condition is satisfied. Okay. So the next one in the list is between, but before we go there, we look at the not, where a condition isn't satisfied. So I want to do the not before we get into the between. So once more, suppose I want to see all students who are studying anything other than economics. So I want to see students who are studying they shouldn't be studying macroeconomics or microeconomics. Anything other than that is fine. So I want to see those students. So how we will do this is, so I will add the previous condition that we just had, where subject equals macroeconomics or microeconomics. And what I will do is I will say where not. I'll just add this not, and then I'll put this in brackets. So we are saying that, okay, the students who satisfy this condition will be studying macroeconomics or microeconomics. We want all students who do not satisfy this condition. So where the subject is not macroeconomics or microeconomics, right? So if I run that, okay, so there was just, I think, a spacing issue. Yeah, and this is giving us all the students who are studying anything other than macroeconomics or microeconomics. So this list does not have macroeconomics, does not have economics anywhere here. So 175 students out of 200 are studying something other than economics. So this is how the not logical operator works. So this not is being applied to this entire condition here. Okay, so as we saw before, we can use the comparison operators with dates. So comparison operators were the greater than or equal to, less than or equal to signs. So we can use that with dates. Now let's combine those comparison operators with logical operators, right? So suppose I want to see all the students who were enrolled between this date and that date. So we want students who are enrolled within a certain date range. So it's pretty straightforward, because I can say select star from students where the enrolled date is greater than or equal to, let's say 2016 1209. So they should have enrolled after the 9th of December 2016. And then I say and enrolled date less than or equal to 2021 0314. And if I hit run, okay, so you can see that it gives us a list of all the students who enrolled after the 9th of December 2016, but before the 14th of March 2021. So there were 11 students who enrolled in that time period, it looks like. Okay, so this is an example of how we are combining logical operators with comparison operators. So this is a very common kind of combination. It happens a lot, but this is just to illustrate how it can be done. Okay, so moving on from this example, so you can see how here we're looking for a date range, right? We're looking for students who were enrolled between this date and this date. There's an easier and much simpler way to do this. So I will leave this one here, and what I'll do is I'll add 2 dashes after before the line. So what this does is it just, it's basically telling MySQL that this is not a code line, this is just a line of text. So ignore this line and don't run anything that's on it. So what I will do instead is just above, I will say where the enrolled date is between 2016 1209 and 2021 0314. So this is where between comes in. So it's useful when you're looking for values that lie within a certain range. So you can just say, it's much shorter than this. So you just say enroll date between date 1 and date 2. So it's much simpler than using this statement with the comparison operators. And just remember, these are 11 rows returned. So if I hit run, it again gives us 11 rows, because the output doesn't really change. It's doing the same thing as this, except that this is shorter and it's easier to use. Okay, so now that we've looked at this kind of example, suppose we want students who were not enrolled within this range. So we want students who either enrolled, so disregard this line. Actually, I'll just delete that line and go back to this one, right? So here, suppose you want to change this, and we'll say that we want students who enrolled before this date or after this date, right? We don't want students who enrolled in between these 2 dates. We want students who enrolled before this date or after this date. So if I hit run, sorry, I think there is an error somewhere, somehow. Okay, again, this is a spacing problem. So we can see that there were 189 students who enrolled before this date or after this date. And that makes sense, because in our previous example, when we were looking for students who enrolled in this date range, there were 11 of them. And 189 plus 11 is 200, which is the total number of students in the database. So this is just checking that our logic is working correctly and there isn't something weird going on in the background. So everything is working correctly. So 189 students were enrolled before this date or after this date. Again, we can use between to make this simpler for us. So I'll leave this example here again. Just add the two hyphens to remove that line and basically say that it shouldn't be executed, so MySQL won't execute it. So I'll say where enrolled date not between sorry, 2016 1209 or enrolled date, not sorry, the student, it's just or not between this date and this date, and then I'll add the brackets. So this is doing the same thing as this, and it looks like there's an error somewhere. I don't think I need the brackets. Okay, I just did not need to add the brackets. So this is doing the same thing as this. So we're saying we want the enroll date to not be between these two dates. So we want the enroll date to be outside this range. And if I hit run, okay, again, spacing issues. It can happen sometimes in a database. Okay, so again, 189 rows is what we got, which is the same as what we saw when we used this condition instead. So between is used for a range of values, and it's much easier to use than, you know, like comparison operators like this. It's just shorter, and it's not just between like dates. You can also use it for numbers, right? So remember, we have this GPA column. So I can get rid of all of this, and I can say I want the GPA to be between 4 and 7 for whatever reason. And if I hit run, we get a list of all the students who have their GPA between 4 and 7. And similarly, I can add a not here. So it will give us all the students who have a GPA either less than 4 or greater than 7. So again, you see there are absolutely no 4, 5s or 6s here. So this is this covers the basics of where statements. So there's a lot of different conditions that you can have, and you can combine and mix them in a lot of different ways. But if I go back to my PPT, this and this, so comparison operators and logical operators are like the building blocks of where statements, and you can combine them in a lot of different ways and come up with a lot of complex conditions. So take some time to work with where statements on your own, build your own conditions, and try to impose, you know, multiple restrictions. Maybe try more than 2 conditions with your logical operators. So yeah, that is it. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.